Welcome to the Positive Leadership Academy podcast. I'm so excited today because one of my topics that I really love to coach people and do workshops is communication, being introvert, extrovert. And today I have the pleasure to have Stacey Chazin. How are you?
I'm very well, Javier. Nice to see you.
Likewise, thank you. She's in the East Coast. I'm in the West Coast, so we're doing our East Coast, West Coast here. Great. And I have a question. I dive into it right away. When you have felt pressure to perform like an extrovert, how did it impact your energy and confidence and clarity? Since we're talking about the difference and the impact, and especially in leaders.
Great question. And I love that question because, first and foremost, it acknowledges that the fundamental difference between an introvert and an extrovert is how we get energy and how we lose energy, right? Not whether we're shy or we like people or not, right? A lot of misperceptions about what it means to be introverted or extroverted, but you hit the nail on the head. It's how we get energy from the world. Introverts are more energized by time spent alone and going deep in subject matter areas, whereas extroverts are energized by being among the people and interacting with others, and not an all or nothing proposition, but that's the fundamental difference. And so I will share the best example I have, and this was my aha moment when I realized that I needed to stop pretending to be extroverted. Was I was at a big conference a few years ago. It was about 8 years ago at this point, 9 years ago. Wow. And about 500 people at this conference. And during the lunch break, one of the conference organizers came over to me and said, "Hey, when everyone comes back from lunch, we're going to start this big flash mob up on the stage. And would you be willing to be one of the first people who comes up as part of the flash mob and start dancing?" Now, I hate to dance. I am not a good dancer. And the idea of hundreds of pairs of eyes on me up on the stage doing this made me feel a little sick. But I felt a lot of pressure to say yes, because as introverts are often pleasers. They want to say yes, and in my mind saying yes meant that I was a leader, that I was supportive, that I was someone who was part of this community. So despite all these alarms going off in my head, I said yes. I went up on stage and it was as awful as I thought it was going to be. I was so uncomfortable up there that as soon as the mob was over, the thing was over, I fled the conference room and I hung out in the ladies' room for the next, I don't know, hour or so to recover. And when I emerged from the stall, finally, I looked at myself in the mirror and I said, "What are you doing? You knew you shouldn't have said yes. You knew that wasn't going to be good for you." And it was this moment where I realized I needed to stop pretending to be someone else, because when I did that, it drained my energy. It made me feel incredibly uncomfortable. I couldn't stay in the meeting any longer and engage with other people. And no good came of it. And it really launched me on this path of trying to learn more about who I am, both as an introvert and an all around human, and figure out how can I recognize those strengths that are associated with my introversion and lean into them and stop pretending to be something I'm not. And now that's what I do and what I coach other people to do.
Yes, and you thank you for sharing the personal story there. And I totally agree. I coach introverts. Number one, they start building this imposter syndrome. There's something wrong with me because I'm not connecting, I'm not loud, I'm not engaging, I'm not. And I always tell them the story of Rockefeller, where people did not like him because he was an introvert. He didn't speak during the meetings, but he always crafted a very powerful question at the very end of the meeting where people were like shocked, right? So say, hey, rely on that, right? I'm an extrovert. So my energy is off the roof. I talk more than I should. I know that, and I shouldn't use should, but I get to talk. I can talk all day long. I'm very energetic. I can throw jokes. I'm very quick. But at the same time, I don't have that gift that introverts have, where they have that mindful moment of really observing, processing, observing, really, really mannering the conversation. And I go, my goodness, that's a strength that I want to have, right? Because as an extrovert, you just want to go. And I totally relate to the energy piece of it as well, right? I have a lot of energy. I'm an extrovert, but at the same time, I need to really watch that energy, because if I'm facilitating a workshop for a whole day, at the end of the day, I'm drained. I'm completely drained as well. So you hit a good point as well, that energy is such a good factor as well. And we have the ability to manage that as well.
And I think what you're speaking to as well is it's not an all or nothing proposition. So just because you identify as an extrovert doesn't mean that being around people for any certain period of time or in any particular circumstances isn't going to drain you, right? But over time, engaging with other people, you want to have more of those types of experiences in your day or in your week or in your month than the time spent alone, because you probably need that to be energized and fueled.
Yeah, absolutely. I have when I do a workshop for leaders, I have some type of icebreaker. And I said, what we're gonna do now, especially if I have a lot of extroverts in the group, I said, what we're gonna do now is we're not gonna talk about ourselves. So the whole point of the conversation is you need to ask other people about themselves. And it's interesting how some individuals that are very extrovert they have a hard time, because they need to process, they need to think, they need to craft those questions instead of talking about themselves, because they already have that script as well. It's
Interesting. That
yeah,
makes
it's
sense.
interesting to see that dynamic as well. I have a question in regards to it's such a powerful, it's so interesting how life provide you all the answers you need by participating in live experiences, right? That's how we learn, right? That's how we learn. But how would your relationship, excuse me, your leadership look and feel like trying to stop and fix your introversion and start honoring that?
Yeah, yeah. Terrific question. Well, it's a few things. One, and I'm a firm believer in naming what you need to be successful at work. So if you're starting a new job or you're starting with a new manager, or you're on a new team for the first time, I think it's a great idea to share with your manager, share with your team member, hey, I want you to know I'm really excited to be here. And here are some things I need from you, or circumstances that are going to set me up to be most successful, to contribute my best work. And so an example might be introverts tend to be good writers, and we also tend to be more comfortable and energized by sharing our ideas in a one on one situation, whether that's in writing, email, or even just face to face with another person. And so an example could be, hey, I want you to know you're going to get your best ideas out of me or your best work from me when I have an opportunity to sit with a question rather than answering on the spot. Or when I have an opportunity to meet with you one on one, or to share my ideas with you in writing. I know that's not always possible, but to the extent that can happen, you're going to get your best work out of me. And I think that every manager should appreciate that. You want to know what do your teammates need to thrive, to be successful, to best contribute to your team's goals. So that's a big one. And I think once you demonstrate to people that when they give you what you need, when they set you up for success, they are going to see that best.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree 100%. You gotta ask, and it will be given to you in all the aspects. But I think when you start, absolutely right, it's something that I'm always fascinating. I understand the startup companies and perhaps companies that are kind of bootstrap. They don't have perhaps the budget or the resources to hire people like you to really make the team more cohesive and more productive. But I'm amazed how companies don't do assessments and really communicate those assessments, either personality or even this. It's a simple assessment as this, so people understand, hey, even though we think we speak the same languages, we don't, right? And really understand each other, because there's so many interactions that I come across, so much conflict going on with colleagues and managers, and it has to do with, hey, we all different, and we all need to really honor that difference with each other. And you mentioned environment, but what would I'm curious, what is the right environment that energize an introvert, and what are the ones, I mean, you made a really good example at the beginning, the ones that really deplete you, right? Like, hey, don't be a pleaser and say yes to everything, and and listen, you get depleted. But what would be the, the roles, the environment, the responsibility that really energize an introvert?
I think that an introvert can be successful in just about any role. And I used to say, except for a front desk receptionist. And then I have a client who was telling me about how her front desk receptionist is an introvert and is so good at what she does. So I'm not saying that anymore. So I truly believe you can be in any kind of role and be successful as an introvert. The key is, and I think this is important to do when you're applying for a new job, is to assess, try to get a sense of what is the environment like in terms of collaborative versus solo work time? That's a really important question to explore because as an introvert, you don't want to be in a role, in a situation where all the work you do is group work, where it's all collaboration. You want to make sure that you have adequate time and opportunity to do solo work because you're going to be more successful when you have an opportunity to go deep and to be alone with your thoughts and really think through the work that you're producing. That's a big one. You also you want to explore when you're interviewing for a job, is it the type of environment that is going to recognize, value, and cultivate introverted traits and gifts? And I think one thing I've been asked, and I think I know what my answer is, or what I'm saying now is, should I tell people that I'm introverted when I interview for a job? And my answer right now, based on what I know and what I've seen, is probably not to use that word because I think that there is still a lot of stigma associated. And when people hear the word introvert, they think, oh, this person, they're not going to work well with others, or they don't like people, or they're not going to want to collaborate, or all the things that we typically associate with leadership and success, people do not typically associate with introversion. So I suggest not naming it, at least in the beginning, but instead exploring what are opportunities for me to go deep in a subject matter area? What are opportunities for me to be involved, let's say, in conflict management? Introverts tend to be very good at, we tend to have high emotional IQ or EQ rather, right? And so we're good at reading body language and nuances. And so as a result, we're good at reading a room, figuring out what people's priorities are, and then helping the group come to some conflict resolution or decision that they need to reach that reflects the different priorities of people around the table. So you want to explore, am I going to have the opportunity to use these strengths in the job? You can also ask, how am I evaluated? How am I going to be evaluated in this role? And these are great questions for anyone to ask, whether you're introverted or extroverted. But when you're introverted, you want to be looking for certain answers that it's not going to be, oh, I'm going to be evaluated on how many people I add to my network, right? It's that quality over quantity is where introverts are going to thrive. So really listen up for what it is the organization values in terms of contributions and work style and make sure that you're represented there. And if that's the case, you can be successful.
Absolutely. And you hit it in a very important key is the environment and the roles that there are opportunities for you to thrive as well. So look for those as well, right? Instead of waiting for those to make for you is really ask for it and really look into it because absolutely. Absolutely. I'm an extrovert, but I don't mind working in groups, but I like to work by myself most of the time. I know some people like I'm not in corporate anymore, but I remember towards the very end in my corporate life, they decided to knock down all the cubicles and kind of make like this open space, ta- table, yeah, tables everywhere, right? And I kind of felt like I'm not doing so well, and I can tell my performance I didn't feel comfortable because I felt like everybody's watching you. You're having a conversation. You either have to look for a phone booth, so you take your energy of really, hey, I'm gonna have a really you know high stake conversation now, and I need to go into a different environment and everybody's watching you. There was no privacy. So I kind of felt like, hey, this is not the right environment. But there are some people that love that environment. It was like they felt communal community, they can chit chat and all that. But it's so interesting. That's why I realized I'm like, I'm an extrovert, but at the same time, I like to do the work by myself. I don't like to be around other people.
Yeah, that's a great example too. Another thing you should explore. What's the physical setup of the space when you're interviewing, when you're exploring a job? And I'd say the ideal is an office that has both. that has that open space for people to, even if it's just a conference room that you're allowed to go use and sit with others, or there's some other communal workspace. But if you need that quiet time, that there's office space for you to be able to shut your door.
Yeah, absolutely. When I was in corporate, I and looking for opportunities, I will vision even the kitchen of the place that I will work for, and I will go to places, and if the kitchen wasn't the way I wanted to, the kitchenette or break area, however you want to call it, I will turn the offer down because I'm like, I cannot see myself in this place. It's just, I don't know, but to me, I'm a visual person, so I'm like, I cannot work here every day in this place. Or the painting on the walls, things like that. To me, a receptionist was a key factor as well. If you have a very pleasant receptionist that welcomes you and says hello, and there's like a nice entrance, that kind of makes a difference for me. So that it was kind of interesting scenario. So it's funny how, like I said, life give you those experiences to get to know yourself more.
Yeah, and I'm hearing a lot from you that you have this self-awareness.
Absolutely.
What
Yes.
Right? What you have and what you need, and that's the most important thing, and you gain that as you get older, as you have more time in the workplace and more time on this planet, you get to become more familiar with who you are as a human, as a professional, and what you need, and hopefully you grow more confident in advocating for what you need.
Yes, absolutely. I always ask myself, if I go back in time with all the experience that I have, I'll probably won't go back to corporate, right? And just to close it, I want to ask you a question because I think I believe that being authentic is key in leadership.
Yeah.
But what is it to be authentic in the leadership world, knowing that you're either introvert, extrovert, hybrid, or both, right?
Yeah, it's leading from a place of self-awareness. It's knowing who you are, knowing how you're wired, and whether it's your introversion or extroversion, it's how you make decisions, how you take in information, whether you're a planner or you're more spontaneous. All the things that make you you fundamentally, how you're wired, is recognizing that, and you can become more familiar with that through the assessments like Myers-Briggs or DISC or Strengths Finders, anything like that. Have that knowledge in hand, and then respect it. Tell people what you need to do your best work, to show up as your best self. And while we all need to step outside of our comfort zone sometimes, put yourself in situations where you have the opportunity to stay true to that wiring, to that self-awareness that makes you special, makes you the leader that you already are, or that you have the potential to be.
That's excellent. Well, where can people find you, and what would be the best way for people to connect? I know you talk about coaching as well. I mean, your website is phenomenal, but I let you share with us where can people connect and get the support they need.
Yeah, thank you. So my business is called the iFactor, Igniting Introverted Leadership. And folks can find me at ifactorleadership.com. The easiest thing to do is I have a number of free resources on the site, including a conference survival guide you can download for introverts, how to speak up in meetings as an introvert, how to be most productive in your workday, a number of other things. You can also schedule a free call with me, a leadership discovery call, well, where we'll do an initial look at what are your core strengths as an introvert that you can bring to your job to get recognized for your leadership. And then I also offer private coaching and an on-demand learning option with self-paced videos that guide you to become a more powerful communicator, prevent burnout, and how do you advocate for yourself as an introvert? Ask for a raise, ask for a promotion, interview for a job. That's the best place to find me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, and we will put those on the show notes as well, specifically the resources. I think they're essential as well, and I love that you offering the one-on-one, also the on-demand as well. I think is great, and what I'm getting is not about labeling yourself; it's about honoring your strengths, who you are, and put those to work and really be proud, right? There's
That's right.
nothing wrong with that. It's the other way around. It's just tapping into your beautiful toolbox of strengths and put those to work. Well, thank you so much, Stacey. I
Thank
really
you, Javier.
appreciate you being part of the Positive Leadership Podcast Academy.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.